before the world understood electricity, one man already saw its future, not as theory, not as possibility, but as something real, something already there. Nikola Tesla didn't just invent machines. He imagined a world that did not exist yet, a world powered without wires, without limits, without boundaries. But there was a problem. The world wasn't ready. His ideas were too early, too strange, too far ahead of their time, and instead of being understood, he was ignored, forgotten, left behind. This is not just the story of a genius. This is the story of a man who saw the future and paid the price for it. Nikola Tesla was born in 1856 in a small village in what is now Croatia, far from major cities, far from scientific centers. But from the very beginning, there was something unusual about him. Tesla did not think the way other people did. He didn't need to draw his ideas. He didn't need to test them physically. Instead, he could see everything in his mind. Machines, movements, entire systems, fully formed, working, as if they already existed. He would build them mentally, test them, adjust them, and only then bring them into reality. This ability made him different, but it also isolated him, because what he experienced was difficult to explain. He described sudden flashes of light, moments where images appeared so vividly that they replaced reality itself. Voices, visions, ideas arriving all at once. To others, this seems strange, even unsettling. But for Tesla, this was not a problem. It was a tool, a way of understanding the world on a deeper level. While others studied what already existed, Tesla focused on what could exist. And from a very young age, he became obsessed with one idea: energy. Not just how to use it, but how to control it, and eventually, how to reshape the world with it. As Tesla grew older, his thoughts became more focused. He was no longer just observing the world, he was trying to change it. At the time, electricity was still new, unstable, difficult to control, and most importantly, limited. The existing systems could only deliver power over short distances. Cities could not expand. Industry could not grow freely. Everything depended on proximity. Tesla saw this as a fundamental flaw. To him, energy should not be restricted. It should move freely, efficiently, across vast distances, but the technology of the time was based on direct current, a system that worked but only within strict limits. It lost power quickly, required constant adjustments, and could not scale to meet the demands of a growing world. Tesla understood this almost immediately, and in his mind, the solution appeared clearly: alternating current, a completely different way of thinking about electricity. Instead of a constant flow, a rhythm, a pulse, energy moving back and forth, allowing it to travel farther, stronger, more efficiently. It was elegant, powerful, and ahead of its time. But there was one problem. The world had already chosen its path, and changing that path would mean confronting the people who controlled it. In 1884, Nikola Tesla arrived in New York with almost nothing. No money, no connections, no safety, only ideas, and one opportunity. Thomas Edison, At that time, Edison was already a powerful figure, a businessman, an inventor, a man who controlled the direction of electricity in America. His system was based on direct current, and it was everywhere. Tesla began working for him. At first, everything seemed promising. Edison recognized his talent. He gave him tasks, complex problems that others could not solve, and Tesla solved them quickly, efficiently, brilliantly. There is a story that Edison once offered Tesla a reward if he could improve his electrical systems, a large sum of money. Tesla accepted. He worked relentlessly, day and night, until the problem was solved, and when he asked for the payment, Edison laughed. He told him it was a joke, a misunderstanding, something Tesla simply didn't understand. That moment changed everything, because it was not just about money. It was about respect, about recognition, and about two completely different ways of thinking. Edison believed in control, in business, in systems that already worked. Tesla believed in something else, a future that had not yet been built, and from that point on, they were no longer on the same side. The conflict between Tesla and Edison quickly grew into something much bigger. It was no longer personal. It became a battle for the future of electricity itself. Two systems, two visions, direct current and alternating current. Edison's system was already established. It powered cities. It had investors. It had control. But it had limits. It could not travel far. It required constant infrastructure. And expanding it meant building more and more power stations. Tesla's idea was different, radically different. Alternating current could travel long distances with less loss, with more efficiency. It could power entire regions from a single source, but it was new, unfamiliar, and therefore dangerous in the eyes of the public. Edison used this. He launched a campaign against alternating current. Public demonstrations, shocking animals, trying to prove that Tesla's system was unsafe, too powerful, too unpredictable. It was not just science anymore. It was fear, and fear spreads quickly. Tesla, on the other hand, did not fight with words. He demonstrated calmly, precisely. He showed how alternating current could be controlled, how it could be used safely, how it could change everything. But at that moment, the outcome was still uncertain because in this battle, truth alone was not enough. It had to win against power, money, and influence. Despite the pressure, despite the fear, alternating current began to win, slowly. Then suddenly, the turning point came with one decision: the Niagara Falls Project, one of the most ambitious engineering challenges of its time. The goal was simple: to harness the power of the falls and deliver electricity across long distances, a task that direct current could not handle effectively. But alternating current could. Tesla's system was chosen, and when it worked, everything changed. Energy flowed. Distances no longer mattered. What once seemed impossible became reality. It was a victory, a clear one. The world began to adopt his ideas. His system became the foundation of modern electricity. But there was something strange about this success. Because while his ideas spread, his name did not. Others built businesses around his work. Others made fortunes. Others gained recognition. To invent, to think beyond what already existed. But he was not focused on profit, not on control, not on ownership. And in a world driven by those things, that choice would cost him. Because winning the future does not always mean you get to keep it. At the height of his work, Tesla was no longer just solving problems. He was exploring possibilities. Electricity was no longer a tool. It became something more, something almost alive. In his laboratory, experiments pushed far beyond what others considered safe. High-voltage currents, massive electrical discharges, energy moving through space in ways that seemed impossible. People who witnessed his demonstrations often described them as unreal, artificial lightning, streams of energy moving through the air, light appearing without wires, devices powered at a distance. It looked like the future. And in many ways, it was. Tesla believed that energy could be transmitted wirelessly, across cities, across continents, possibly across the entire planet. No cables, no limitations, just power, available everywhere. It was an idea so ambitious that most people could not fully understand it. Even investors hesitated, because this kind of system could not be easily controlled or monetized. But Tesla continued, driven not by profit, but by vision, because in his mind, this was not an experiment. It was the next step, and he was already there. But ambition has a cost, and Tesla's ideas were becoming too large, too abstract, too difficult to control. Investors began to hesitate, not because they didn't see potential, but because they couldn't see profit. One of his biggest projects, the Wardenclyffe Tower, was meant to change everything. A massive structure built to transmit energy wirelessly across the world. No cables, no infrastructure, just power. But that was the problem. If energy was free, who would pay for it? And without profit, there was no support. Funding slowed, then stopped completely. The tower remained unfinished, a symbol of something incredible that the world chose not to accept. And for the first time, Tesla was no longer moving forward. He was being held back. As the years passed, Tesla's position began to weaken. His ideas were still powerful, still ahead of their time, but the world around him was changing. Industry was growing. Corporations were expanding. Control became everything, and Tesla did not play that game. He didn't patent aggressively. He didn't protect his work. He didn't build systems around money. Others did, and they moved faster. They adapted. They built businesses, while Tesla continued to think beyond what was immediately useful. Slowly, his influence began to fade. Not because he was wrong, but because he was not aligned with how the world actually worked. And that difference became critical. In his later years, Tesla became increasingly isolated. He moved between hotels, often unable to pay, living quietly, almost invisibly. He still worked, still believed in his ideas, but fewer people were listening. Fewer people were interested. To many, he became a strange figure, a man with brilliant thoughts, but no place to apply them. He spoke about future technologies, wireless communication, energy transmission, even concepts that resemble modern devices. But at the time, they sounded unrealistic, too far ahead, too disconnected. And so he was left alone, not because he had nothing to offer, but because the world had moved on without fully understanding him. Nikola Tesla died in 1943, alone in a hotel room, without recognition, without wealth, without the status that many believed he deserved. At the time, his death did not make headlines. There was no global reaction, no immediate understanding of what had been lost. He was seen as a forgotten inventor, a man who once had promise, but faded away. And yet, even in that moment, his work remained quietly, hidden inside systems that continued to grow. Because while he disappeared, his ideas did not. They were already part of the world, just not connected to his name. Years later, the world began to look back, and things started to change. Technologies emerged that reflected Tesla's early visions: wireless communication, global energy systems, devices that relied on principles he had described decades before. And suddenly, his work became relevant again, not as theory, but as reality. People began to recognize what he had truly contributed. Not just inventions, but direction. He didn't just build machines, he shaped the way energy moves through the modern world. And even now, his influence continues, often unnoticed, but always present, because the future he imagined eventually arrived, just not in his lifetime. Nikola Tesla did not fail. He simply lived in a time that could not keep up with him. His ideas were not wrong. They were early, and that made them difficult to accept, difficult to understand, and difficult to support. But history has a way of correcting itself. What is ignored today can become essential tomorrow, and what seems impossible can become normal. Progress is not always recognized in the moment. Sometimes it takes time, and sometimes the people who see the future first are the ones who stand alone, until the world finally catches up.